away from us.
Oh.
And they'll have minimum, they'll have a minimum density of 5 units per acre, with the exception of rural at 10 acres per unit. And then they'll curb park fees and other things. So it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people don't think it's going to pass, so I don't lose any sleep over it, but it's out there.
I'd be happy to send over, I believe I received something from Jessica Bizey again that I'd be happy to send over to the commission if you're interested to learn more about it.
And it should be in the council packet from last.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so I'll send a link to that tonight.
Make a whole text of the bill and everything.
And any proposed legislation is always, you can find it on the Minnesota legislation.
I don't know if it's hit I don't know.
Oh, it's not?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's why the senator didn't know, because it's a House discussion and it hasn't formally been introduced. But
Okay.
they're anticipating it to be. So I think that's part of the delay.
Okay.
And then I just, the city administrator recruitment position profile. I didn't get the impression from the gentleman that's putting that together, the hired consultant, or, do you think, I mean, just, I didn't really get the feel that there was any emphasis on trying to find someone with experience in our unique situation, being that there's a lot of rural land, and basically every development there is brand new,
I think that's what we try to get to as we start to see, like, we haven't seen the candidates yet, or resumes or anything yet. As we start to get to some of the elimination process and looking at them, I think that's where the council will get to, is focusing on those aspects of a resume and of an applicant. But I think in general, he's just trying to cast as wide of a net as possible.
Yeah.
And then we kind of take it from there as council.
Okay.
We were interviewed by him, each one of us, and he spent an hour with each of us on our own mindsets and thoughts on things, and
He spent an hour and 45 minutes with you, didn't he?
with me, he was on for a while. Your concerns are many of mine, Dean, and it's like the mayor said, he cast a wide net. I think he said he's had over 34.
Well, yeah, he said he had 30 people.
Right off the top.
Right off the top of his head that he could call. He sounds like the right guy to find somebody. I just didn't.
He does this. This is he's a retired city administrator, and he does this to help.
Yeah.
He's got a pretty good thing going on.
We hired I thought a good city manager before. I'm sure we can do it again, so.
Yep.
Okay, anybody else? I had my time. Anybody else have any questions or discussion with the city council?
Mr. Chair, just two things. You knew I had to ask you a question, so. I heard a comment recently that city council appointed a subcommittee to discuss or to liaison with the police department about a gun-related incident in the city.
Yes.
And I've not been, I've asked what that was referring to, and I haven't.
Our gun ordinance is what it is, Commissioner Lanterman. Myself and Councilmember Schultz are working with Ryan to do a draft. Once that draft is done and refined, that will come to, there was things that came up, and I think we talked, that was in early December, and I think he got sidetracked with some of the things that was going on. So it's just revisiting ordinance, talking about, obviously there's areas now that we should not allow any discharge of firearms and such. A true map, those kind of things. I don't want to take anything away from Ryan's work and such, but he's working with our reserves, all of our police, and a few, I think we've asked questions with a few other gun enthusiasts in town and such on input to that. I think there'll be a good draft coming, I don't know when.
So are we just being proactive, or was there a specific incident that occurred that,
I think I can share, we had a couple of instances in the southwest corner of the city.
okay,
I'm trying to remember what he told me I could say.
oh, that's,
Was it about a discharge?
There was discharge. One went through a plate glass window, and they were,
say no more, that's good enough for me.
they were unable to define, or it's still under investigation of where it came from. And then one discharged and was sighting in the rifle and hit a home.
Oops.
So again, I think a lot of our mindset is crossing property lines, those kind of things. We want to get our hands around it, but we still want that openness and such for those that do it. You know, my biggest thing is right now, me personally, not anybody else's mindset, but the discharge of a rifle south of, I think it's 24, that Mora line, so to speak. We don't hunt, you can't sight in unless you're in a controlled environment kind of deal is my mindset. Again, that's just my feeling, my thoughts. When I sight my rifle, I'm sighting it north of that line per our hunting ordinances and stuff in the state. And again, you know, the sell for the shooting ranges and our police force going out and approving or disapproving and those kind of things, I don't know if we want that much control and such, but I think the control of discharging across property lines and stuff is a concern and such, so. That's your number one question, and I might have answered too much, but.
No, thank you.
Boy, I'll take it from there.
I appreciate that. And I guess the only other thing, I just have a comment. I appreciate that Senator Osmic came out and spoke with us. But while he was here, you know, I just want to remind or maybe make you folks aware that immediately before the senator's comments, our police department had an award ceremony, and an award was given to one of our officers, I think for 25 years, which is
Officer Warren, yes.
a heck of a career. And after the award was presented, Senator Osmek, I don't know if this was just an awkward joke he was making, but he said, "I feel intimidated and nervous with all of these cops around."
Yeah.
And as far as I'm concerned, if I had to choose between the senator or one of our hero police officers here, I'm going to go with our police officers. So frankly, just not that my, opinion has anything to do with it. I could care less if the senator ever comes back. I thought it was rude, I think it was inappropriate, and I was offended by it.
Your comments are duly noted. I think one of our requests also was, before he came, we'd like to have seen a presentation so we could have questions about it. That did not happen, so I did.
Well, I guess instead of
It
being
was-
intimidated and nervous, why not say thank you?
Should be happy.
Feel safe.
And to your comment, Mark, I spoke with Steve later, a couple days later, and I said, I was gonna start shouting speech, and he said, I was waiting for somebody to do that, and I don't know what I would have said, so I do know he's extremely grateful for the recognition. I know we are grateful to have him and everybody else that's amongst our public safety group and such. But I heard that clearly also, and I'm like,
Well, I just think.
Not well-versed on what he should have.
Well, I just think that sometimes we forget that these are people we call to help us with things that we can't deal with on our own. And for him to come here and say that was inappropriate.
And I would just encourage you to reach out to his office, because I do think sometimes we forget as well that they are human and in error, giving him the opportunity, or not, maybe if he doesn't feel like he made that comment in error. But having interacted, I think sometimes that I am guilty of this, not saying something like that, hopefully, but of just filling dead air, right, out of nervousness. And so all I would say is that it could be an opportunity to actually build a bridge when something like that is out there. So I would encourage you as well to reach out to his office and see, like, ask for a response, yeah.
Well, I would encourage him to reach out to our police department and apologize.
That also could be done, yes.
Duly noted.
Yep.
And
point.
on another thought too, I go to class tomorrow for newly elected leaders through the League of Minnesota Cities. So I've already been online 4.5 hours reviewing 6 instructions on what to say, what not to say. And it's one of the things that I thought, I'm like, God, what have I said since I got on? What have I done wrong? My biggest fear is talking in front of people. I do it. I'm told I'm okay at it. But what have I said? But that stuck out to me too, Mark, of somebody in that senator role that it should have been, something else should have been said very, very much. I agree, Mark.
We all make mistakes. Just call the guy and apologize.
Yeah.
Sure, that would be.
Yeah. Steve's got a pretty thick skin, but I don't even know. He was, like I said, when I talked to him, he was so nervous that one of us were going to ask him for, give him the microphone, give him a minute or two to talk. He appreciates that, but he's happy with the recognition, and very, very well deserved.
Yep.
Okay, anything else with the council
Oh,
report?
thanks for all the time, you guys, very much.
Thank you, Dean.
Thank you.
It's fun.
All right, item 8C, other business. Is there any other business we have?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
This is for the mayor and Councilman Behrenkamp. I know that other cities have licensing requirements for solicitors, people coming door to door. Hey, I understand that, you may have roof damage or something like that. I don't believe we have anything in our city code requiring licensing. Number one, my question is, do you believe, and I know that, you don't, well, you're a member of the council, but you can't, answer on behalf of the whole council, but do you believe that there would be appetite for such a code? The reason I ask is, in the not-too-distant past, my neighbors had an individual knock on their doors. I'm a roofer. Turns out he was a felon with multiple violent crime convictions. I found out that Wayzata, which does have a solicitation, a permit requirement, had actually denied him. And I think that we spend a lot of time, or a lot of time dealing with proactive things. And I think that this is important, that if you have people knocking on doors and maybe frightens an elderly resident, I think that there should be a record here that, no, ma'am, we checked, and, someone's in your neighborhood, we're aware of that. Something like that. If if the city, or I guess my question is there an appetite to look at this? And if so, would the city entertain sample code language if I draft it?
I got a question. So they left the gates open in your community? And they came in?
They
Really?
did, yep,
Wow.
bless you, yes.
A whole bunch of things go through my mind
I'd
on
say,
this.
Well, and I ran the criminal history, and we've confirmed it. I know, we know who the person is. And he threatened some of my neighbors. So,
I'd say I'm certainly open to looking at that. I would think the council would be open to adding that to the list of, the code things we want to look at, adding or changing, and,
I think it's something we need to run through,
yeah, I have no objection to that. And if-
our public.
yeah, I would be happy to take the, first stab at this, and, I would, welcome the opportunity to speak to council on the topic, because I think it's important. And I don't think it'll take a lot of heavy lifting. A lot of our neighbors already have this.
Have you had any conversation with Matt at all?
I called and I informed him, and he's like, yeah, there's nothing we can do. We don't have any ordinance here. I said, oh, we have ordinance for a bunch of stuff, and, something having to do with personal safety, I think is important. So I would be willing to volunteer and take the first shot at that, but I don't want to do that work if there's no appetite for it.
I think there's definitely enough to pay for it. Maybe let's follow up on it, and we can get it on the council agenda, and we talk to council and take it from there.
Great, thank you.
Chair and Commissioners, if I may just add, that this was discussed a few years ago, and I believe Public Safety did look into a couple model ordinances, but I don't know how far that ended up going. So I think it's come up in the past as well, so I'm absolutely reaching out to Director of Public Safety.
Well, I have a good case study to share.
Yeah.
Well, I would imagine though, if it's you gotta go file a permit, and obviously it sounds like Wayzata does some background.
They do.
That's probably a resource then that the city would have to,
It would.
you'd have to
Put a
balance
little bit
out.
more on our public safety group and stuff, but it's worth looking at, absolutely.
Well,
Yeah, well, I mean, it would be easy to pick off some of them, the guys who come in from out of state, if they don't have any business, anywhere here, those are probably some easy ones to look out, if ABC Seamless shows up and says, yeah, I want to solicit, we all know who they are, and they're probably legit. But I support it too. I think that, I never even thought of it, but I've certainly had a number of people that, I had a guy actually come and ask me if I wanted a roof while they were putting a new roof on. I mean, it was really quite funny, and I don't know, but they hover, but.
And it's worse nowadays, from 3 years ago to today. I think that they're opportunists. I think there's some things that have changed a lot. I think it's another time to visit. Good input, thank you.
Okay. Say, Kendra, I don't recall, when exactly was the hearing for that Wayzata Lake Minnetonka variance?
Yeah, I'm
Was
not
that in
sure.
January, or is that
You
in
know
March?
what? I declined, and I haven't been tracking it. I don't think it's resolved, though.
Okay. I
I can check before the next meeting, but I'm not sure the status.
I thought it was like in January, but then I thought, no, I think it's more like in February or
I
March.
can check, I'm not sure.
is that the house, moving the house?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, next to Greenway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else? All right. Item 9, Commissioner Liaison Calendar. So if I understand right, this calendar is correct.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, anybody have any conflicts?
No.
Okay. Well, with that being okay then, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second Schulak.
All right, all those in favor of adjourning this meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, meeting's closed. Thanks, everybody.
I will just say to the commission, March is gonna be a humdinger, so eat your supper and come prepared. It's a full agenda.
I intend to. See you there.
What do we have, what are the biggest